How long would it take to harvest something like this?
Good question. It depends on how many people you have picking, but typically the harvest is spread out over about a 2-month period. Some of the early white wines start to ripen and get to the right sugar levels as early as the end of September. But October and November is really when the majority of it comes in. And
have they retired this over here? Is this just lying fallow for a while? Or?
It is. It was planted, and what was here wasn't appropriate, and so they yanked it all up. And they've yet to come back and replant it yet. But if you look across the field there, you'll see that they have been doing a lot of replanting or planting. All those new metal posts over there, it's all new. And grapevines, they're all cuttings. So they've basically had the ability to propagate from seed bred out of them. So if you put a grape seed in the ground, your odds of getting a plant out of it are very, very low.
Right.
And the yields are determined based on tons per acre. So in this area, anywhere where they're producing premium wines, you're looking at about 2 tons of grapes per acre. Now if you go up to the Central Valley, Gallo land, you're looking at 10 to 12 tons per acre.
Jeez.
So significantly more fruit in the same area.
But a bad year for yield like 07 is oddly enough a good vintage year.
A good vintage year, yeah. It can be a very good vintage year. So in contrast to Zaca Mesa, which is behind us, we've got Demetria estate over here on the left. So this is a 200-acre property, and of that 200 acres, there's about 40 of it planted in vines. And if you notice, it's almost all on sloping terrain. Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Makes it difficult to harvest, but it does make for some really good quality grapes.
You know, it's the missionary position wines which dominate here. Chardonnay and Merlot. All white Zinfandel, which is, you know, it doesn't involve another person.
Really? So where is Marsanne? Where is it? In the Rhone Valley. So.
Yes. Anything where we're looking at Marsanne, Roussanne, Viognier, Grenache Blanc, Syrah, Mourvèdre, Grenache, they're Rhone wines.
But the Rhone like goes like from coastal way inland, right?
Yeah.
And there's differences as you go up. Which is it closer to Germany or is it closer to the ocean?
It's closer to Spain.
Spain.
Yeah. The capital would be Avignon. And if you know the history, Châteauneuf-du-Pape is the new house of the Pope. When the Medicis and the Italian papal institution was being shifted to the new powerhouse, which was Avignon, that's the Rhone region. So that's off almost on the border with Spain. You move to Condrieu, that would be Rhone or northern Rhone, and that's when you start finding the Viogniers. So Châteauneuf is mostly Grenache wines that are blended with Mourvèdre.
And the Marsanne is
close. Is of that ilk.
But is it closer to Avignon or is it further? Okay.
Yeah.
He said, there's a word on here I don't know, just ask him.
But he knew before I did. He knew cherry. I didn't know cherry.
So you can check ID, but you can't check IQ.
Well.
Let's give you an example of how these tasting notes come about. We'll open a bottle of wine maybe about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and we will taste it throughout the day. And at a certain point, we're making notes, and then let's just say, for argument's sake, you got cherry jam, cherry sauce, and you just written cherry. Are you filming this?
I am.
You are. You're not working for Homeland Security.
No. So it all gets,
he has a blue card.
it all gets edited and they put a load of computer graphics over it and make everyone look
Actually,
silly.
we're white cards, he's red cards. It's a rose thing.
Red card he has to sit out for at least 2
That's
games.
true, yeah. So, this is how we'll come across these tasting notes. We'll go, okay, what are you tasting this? And you go, cherry. What kind of cherry? Cherry cola. What kind of cherry have you got? Oh, I got cherry pie, or black cherry, or white cherry, or cherry sauce, cherry jam. How many different variations of cherry are there that will give you these flavors? So then we'll pull it back and go, okay, if we've gotten cherry in there, we're on the same page. We challenge each other's taste buds to see what we can actually bring out in the wines ourselves. And then when it comes to the tasting notes, we will simplify it for the GPs.
Does this start off in the concrete?
No, it's fermented in steel, and it spends about 8 to 14 days juice and skin contact first and foremost, and then it will spend 16 to 18 months in barrel.
So you skim the skin off and then put it in the barrels, or does it go in skin and everything?
Kind of sort if you want to go that way, yeah. We run the juice out.
What are Asian spices?
Fenugreek?
Spices?
What spices come from Asia?
Fenugreek. I just like saying that word.
Fenugreek is actually from Iran.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's something you didn't know.
German ancestors used to make these rings.
Oh,
Their
they just
name
make.
is Bittenbender, which are the barrel ring makers. So
Let's take you up to the crush pad first, show you the toys that we use for starting the winemaking process, and then we'll answer the questions as they come around. Everything we do in the vineyard is all done by hand. So we pick the grapes by hand, they're brought over here, and we process all of the fruit up here. So the toys that we have are essential mostly for either containing the fruit, or for squeezing juice out, or for initial fermentation for them. The big Europress in the center here, it's like a big sieve. The fruit goes in. If you can see on this side, it's easier.
Actually, they do a little bit of that here.
We do a little stomping.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
One of the few.
So one of these, all of these slits here, basically the fruit goes in. Inside here is a big balloon, like a bladder. And the fruit goes around the bladder, and these little slits here, when you expand the bladder, pushes the grapes against the wall, and holds back the seeds and the skin and the stems and everything, so that the juice runs into the tray. Think about it just for white wines. It's like making orange juice at home. You just want the juice out, and everything else stays behind. So then we'll put the juice into the steel tanks and start the fermentation off initially. With black grapes, hand sort everything. We don't want any residual green in there. We don't want style wines, and we don't want any livestock in there whatsoever. So snakes and bugs and stuff like that will come out. Then the fruit on Syrah and Grenache this year, we fermented in concrete. So these are like the concrete eggs you've just seen downstairs, but these are 5-ton size. So we're one of only 3 or 4 wineries in the country that uses concrete in the winemaking program, but it's very traditional in France. So we're gradually moving away mostly from the steel into concrete usage. But again, bear in mind that the concrete is only used for the Rhone wines, not the Burgundies. So the Pinot doesn't see concrete, Chardonnay or the Pinot Blanc don't use. Just
Answer the question.
I have a secret answer.
What do you add to ferment?
Good question.
No,
Good
sugar's
question.
already in
Good
the grapes.
question.
Sugar is already in the grapes when they're harvested. You know when an apple is sweet or a banana is sweet, it's the sugar that's in the fruit. It's the fructose. Same thing in a grape. So we're looking at a quarter of a grape who's made up of sugar by the time they come in to be processed. Yeast is a living organism, and its food of choice is sugar. So as yeast eats sugar, it does 2 things. This is basic fermentation science here. Yeast does 2 things. As it consumes the sugar, it farts carbon dioxide and urinates alcohol. And at a certain point, there's no more food left and it dies of its own detritus. That's fermentation.
That's so sad.
Poor yeast.
But it's so delicious.
Free the yeast. Bryan grows some yeast up here in harvest.
It's gonna be fun to
It's
see.
gotta be really loud, I imagine.
It's a frenzy
Bottling
of
is
activity. Oh yeah, the bottling is definitely wild. But yeah, during October and November, there are several people here all frantically doing things.
Whites going to these tanks, or these stainless tanks?
And they also use those for yeah, no problem. So we can hang out here. He's got some more people coming in. So they use these for fermenting white wines, but they also use these for blending too. So once they have spent their 18 months or whatever in the barrels, they'll bring them up here, blend them together, and then from here they go into the bottling machine.
What can you see in that?
I see quite a child cleaning between batches.
Batch group, they say that winemaking is like 90% doing the dishes.
Yeah.
So steam hoses or something?
They pressure wash, they use ozone to sanitize. 5 years is a good time frame for a white, a Chardonnay. After that, it starts to go back. Whereas a red, like a Syrah or a Cabernet Sauvignon, on the other end of the spectrum, is like 15 years, 20 years.
The Pinot Noir?
Pinot Noir, a little less, probably 10 years.
What about these wines you hear about that are decades and decades old and just renowned?
A lot of those are French wines that are made to age for a long time.
So that was the whole purpose was to
And what they'll do is they'll make them very tannic.
It's like a savings bond.
Yeah, and they'll make
hold
them
it for a long time for them to work
tannins.
its full value.
Tannins in the skins act as a preservatives. So the more tannin you put in that wine, then the longer it can age.
What do tannins break down into?
It's
an acid, right? It's tannic acid.
It's a good question. I don't know exactly how they dissipate, but it softens. Yeah.
Inside and answer that
Yeah.
question.
Seeing as how it's chilly out here.